Hello and welcome to the only podcast where we knew Kelnaka wouldn't go far, but we were excited to see him anyway. I'm Matt.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Max.
And this is Force for Thought.
Fantastic!
I've been thinking about that joke and
Which
how we
planet
could...
was Kofar? That was the one that Kelnaka was on, right?
Yeah.
Where they had the
where
good
he
fight.
dies.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so obvious. I'm pissed I didn't think of it
I've been
first.
thinking about that joke, how to fit it in. I feel like this is the perfect episode since we saw Kelnaka in his full glory today. Hello and welcome back to Force for Thought. We just watched episode 7, The Choice of the Acolyte, and we're gonna... What?
Forgot it.
It's called The Choice. Yeah, so did I until I said it.
I didn't even read what it was called, so I'm glad someone else did.
All right. I think Luke said it out loud, which
Yeah,
is
I
why
did.
the only reason I even knew what it was.
No slash.
No slash.
No slash today. Nope.
It's because they were together. Whenever they're together.
Yep.
Mm.
Full flashback. It is when they're together, huh?
Mm.
Good detective skills, Luke.
Thank you.
What did you guys think overall? Again, we're one episode away from the finale. There's a lot to dig into. This is a flashback episode the entire time. So let's go around and say what our overall overview thoughts were. Luke Taylor.
Matt, I loved it.
All right, you 10 out of 10.
Start to finish, 10 out of 10.
All right.
It was fantastic. It answered a lot of questions, kept us wanting for more. Fantastic fight, fantastic plot developments and dialogue. I really, really liked it.
Any negatives on the top of your head too? Because I feel like I don't want to go. Last episode we went really positives
Yes.
and then negatives for a long time, so I kind of want to just blend the two together, so it's not we don't.
The story
Or
beat,
maybe I don't shit on the thing for
the
half
story
hour.
beat of because we laughed at this at the
Yes.
same time. The story beat of Torben immediately running off to the speeder to go grab the twins.
Yes,
Seems
this is it.
a little funny to me.
Yeah,
Like
that was convenient.
he's like running up there like he has to just capture a flag and bring it home. Like he is going to go kidnap 2 girls from 50 witches.
In a fortress.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
is.
was a little hokey, but
It was, and then the funniest thing is when they get there, though, instantly Saul's like, "I'll take the lead, you follow." And like, it's like, okay, here we go, Maxwell.
I also liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it answered enough questions for me to be satisfied.
Yeah.
Like, I liked the episode, but I'm just like staring at the end of the through the barrel here, you know, and I'm just like really worried that they're not going to stick the landing. So in my head, I'm like, all right, I still have a lot of questions, and now I don't know if they are questions or just concerns, because it depends on what they answer. Because again, if they answer the questions, then it's like, great, that's fantastic. But if they don't, it's like, is this being set up for a second season, or was this just like an oversight? Like, are there just like kind of like glaring things that they just didn't think about? I don't know.
I know. I was thinking the same thing, and this is the first episode we've recorded where we've talked maybe for 2 minutes before we started recording, which we have usually never do. We literally sit down, don't talk to each other, and then record and have all of our thoughts. So if you're ever thinking, wow, those guys are scatterbrained, it's because we are. And so we talked a little bit about this off pod of like, I do think that they're setting up a multi-season show because there's so many answers that we're going to need. Just the origin of Chimera, debatably the most interesting mystery of him being what he would consider potentially a Sith. You know, how does this information get back to the Jedi Council? Is Venestra Rowe bad? Will she use her whip lightsaber again? There's so many questions, and I have the feeling that they're doing. And
there is another episode yet.
There is, but they have to wrap up all of those. I mean, a good show also doesn't answer all the questions, right? But it's just like, I just wish we knew there was going to be another season for sure. Because I said this again off pod, so it feels like I'm repeating myself. Because to the viewers, it's brand new, but to you guys, you have to hear this boring shit again.
Oh, I wasn't listening, so
Oh, perfect.
don't worry.
So I think that they did this with Kenobi, and they did this with Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka as well. But Ahsoka season 2 is confirmed, so that's good. In the fact that they wrap up some story elements, but they have all satisfying enough, I think, quote unquote, to be like, if the show does not get renewed or if we don't make any more content for this, it is semi-satisfying. Like Book of Boba Fett could go on. He's gotten what he's wanted, but now it's like, what will he do with it? And then I think the same thing with, right? I mean,
He had a full character arc. I don't want to. I
But
know
that's-
you
yes.
immediately smash the fuck Book of Boba Fett button as soon as we start talking about Star Wars.
Let's go with Kenobi then. Same thing with Kenobi is that it is semi-satisfying, but then you live on a cliffhanger of where you want the story to go with Qui-Gon Jinn as being the Force Ghost. Same thing with...
But we know where that story goes.
I mean, we thought we did before until they came out with the show Kenobi, though. We were like, okay, this is how we So they can have a million opportunities to go. Or same with Boba Fett is that Boba Fett's goal was to get the town. He gets the town, but then he gives it up at the end. So his goal, there's no really arc. He ends up back where he started without a town. And so I think that's where we want to see him, though, is kind of being a rogue person. And I think the same thing with the Acolyte is that we'll have some sort of satisfying conclusion, potentially with Osha and May, but then Kymir's storyline will continue or have the opportunity to continue into other shows or seasons. I hope he doesn't die. Last time we saw Osha, she was wearing his helmet, and I hope that, again, he doesn't die and she kind of takes the reign. It just feels like that'll be a little wonky. We've talked
I think
about
that is what's going to happen, though.
I mean, she's talked about how this whole show is built around her and stuff, and yada yada. So it feels like they are setting.
She is the main character.
up.
So
The difference with Ahsoka and the other shows, though, is that the other shows are made, or take Ahsoka and Andor. Both of those shows are made knowing beforehand that it's going to be coming back for another season.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi weren't. Those were designed to be one season things with just like, not necessarily questions, but just like little things where it's like, if you want us to come back, they're just testing the waters. Like, you guys want us to go down this road some more? And every time, I feel like people are always just like, no, we're good. We can stop there.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, stop doing that, Star Wars.
I agree.
Give me a one season show that just has a satisfying ending and just say, look, we can come back and do a second one if you want, but we finished this story for you. This story is done. And I'm afraid that's not what's going to happen now. This show was pitched as a show all about the Sith, and I like that. I think that we can continue with Kymir passing the torch to Osha and her becoming the next Sith or whatever, and we can like follow that season 2 if that's where it's leading or something like that. That's fine. But for one more episode left, I still have a lot of questions that don't even have anything to do with Kymir at this point.
Yeah.
Because, like I said on our I think it was the last episode, when you have these mysteries, you see it from 3 different perspectives. You see it from one person's point of view, then you see it from another person's point of view, and then you see the truth. And I feel like we're still missing that third one, and I don't know if we're going to get it or not.
Yeah.
Because there's still things that they're showing us and new things that they're introducing to us, which makes me think that we're going back to get more information still. But if we get more information, how are we going to be wrapping up the story involving Kyrie and all that stuff in the present day, right? So I kind of want to talk about that because this was another flashback episode. The things that we still kind of have questions on, and maybe it's not questions that we're supposed to have. Maybe it's just me being nitpicky. But there are a couple obvious ones. The first one being Coral surviving.
Yeah.
Coral was not with the witches that were dead.
Potentially dead.
Potentially dead. Yeah, I guess that's another question mark too. Like, did they just die, and how did they die? Like, that was just kind of like anticlimactic. But maybe again, there's more to that we'll see from Coral's perspective. Whatever they're doing in front of that pit, because we saw that twice now, where they're like looking down into the pit, and it looks like something is being lowered into it. I didn't see it this time, but in the first time that we see it, it's kind of what it looked like to me. But I don't know. And I feel like they showed us that again for some reason.
They also mentioned a sacrifice in this episode as well.
Yes, that was a new one that May mentioned, that
So
you have to
it's-
sacrifice yourself for your destiny or whatever.
They're building more questions around this thing, which is nice because you're starting to get a bigger picture potentially, but it is becoming a bigger question, I guess, as well.
And then everything surrounding their creation and how were they created? Was it artificial? Was it a virgin? Can those things be the same? Are they different?
I think it is the virgins. I don't think it's a coincidence that they mention a virgins, and then perchance they are also created in the same semi way. It feels that's exactly, I don't know.
But
Right, virgins.
I went back to try to like
virgins.
find out like how they were talking about that. Like, so is that a virgins? Like, that is the same thing? Like, a virgins isn't just a natural force thing. Like, it can be artificial.
Yeah.
Like, someone can cause a virgins to create life.
I think there's a natural virgins on Brendock.
Sorry,
and the
with
witches
Kofar.
used it to create May and Osha,
I agree. Yes.
and it's like the well.
Yep, I agree. And that's presumably where the literal hole in the ground is where they're looking.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that does make sense. Again, it's one of those things where I think it's a nugget, and then we'll get potentially, if they do a season 2 or whatever, that's when you kind of naturally find out, oh, back in season 1, that's what was going on
See,
there.
that I do not want. I do not want season 2 to start
agree.
answering those questions. Season 2 can start another story, kind of leaving off where they went, like I said, with Kymir. But do not tell me, like, oh, they'll just answer this in season 2, because I'm giving this show a lot of leeway. I've been saying the entire time, like, oh, let's just wait till the end. If the
You
show
have been saying,
ends,
let's just wait till the end, and here you go complaining about all this stuff that you don't know how it ends, and the show's not over.
I know, and I like I said, I could be totally wrong, but
No,
I'm
it's a
getting
lot,
really
though.
nervous now.
Yeah.
They're still
Well,
introducing stuff,
I
and I'm
think-
like, listen, you have to end this thing.
I think where Max is coming from is the fact that usually, within a show, you get answers along the way. And we haven't really gotten answers along the way. We've just gotten more questions. And so I think, by the final episode, we're supposed to have like, okay, it's all kind of wrapped up in a perfect little bow, or at least it's, if I was wrapping it, it would just be a semblance of a bow. But like there hasn't been many answers going since episode 1. Today was maybe the first episode, or the first episode that we found some answers, which is what happens to all the witches on Brendok, which is, and we don't fully even know what happened.
I would say that's not one of the answers that
Well,
we
we
got.
know that like the Jedi, we all kind of thought that the Jedi slaughtered the witches, right?
Yes.
So it was kind
I
of
was
a
expecting
fake.
the Jedi to be like super duper in the wrong, and I'm still kind of on the Jedi's side.
But that's why I'm thinking that we're gonna get the truth, and like there's
Yeah.
gonna be a third point of view. Because coming out of
But,
this, I'm like, that wasn't that bad. Like, I mean, like, yeah, Torben was kind of like a little brash.
Like, why did he take the vow? Like, was it something after that? Or so in a funny way, you remember the movie Big Nothing we watched in college? In that movie, David Schwimmer's character accidentally knocks out this homeowner, and then Simon Pegg's character comes along and thinks he's dead. So in order to what he thinks is clean the crime scene up, ties a rock to the guy's ankle, like a big boulder to the guy's ankle, and throws him in a septic tank. And he's just knocked out. So he ended up actually killing the guy. And so it ends up being kind of like, and that's a funny movie. It doesn't sound like what I described as hilarious, but I swear to God it
It's
is.
pretty funny.
You unlocked my new greatest fear, being
And-
thrown into a septic tank and drowning there.
Not great. Not great. But the same thing is like, I feel like maybe Torben was like, oh, all these people are dead. And then they're actually not dead. They're just passed out, and they just left them all to just burn, basically. Like, if there's like a 20-minute
I mean, did it all
sleep period.
burn? The whole thing burned down?
I don't know. I don't think we
So
fully know.
That's what we're assumed. That's what we're led to believe.
That's
That they
what we're
left them
being-
there, passed out, and they all burned to death.
That's what we're being told
potentially.
by Soul. And now this episode's point of view was clearly from Soul's perspective. So there is a chance, like I said, the reason we're coming back for a third perspective is because this one's being portrayed as very Jedi friendly.
Max, I think just thinking about this, I was thinking about how it's going to be from Coral's perspective, but we already kind of saw her perspective. It's going to be from May's perspective. We still have to figure out how she survived.
Yeah, there will be more to
Yeah.
that.
You're right, Max.
Yeah, they
That-
can address Coral and May's perspective.
They're gonna-
that makes sense.
They're going to address then what happened to the witches. They're going to address how she survived. I mean, that has to happen, even if it's told briefly or in the beginning it's the flashback or something. Because we end with another very kind of sizzled out ending where it was not another great ending. It just was a little weird, right? Like it was like this. I love this episode. This episode is really cool. We got to see Kalnaka fight. There's a
I
great
disagree that it
lightsaber battle.
ended
Really?
Kind of sizzled out.
With
Yeah,
May
they got to the
started a
end-
fire. I mean, I literally
They
said
got to the end of the story of what Soul did. We saw. You guys are always complaining every week that there's not a beginning, middle, and end to the episode.
Mm-hmm.
This is the entire flashback from Soul's perspective from the beginning to the end.
You just want to you want to end with like you want to end with a power chord. It just didn't do it. It ended with a minor. I was like, oh okay, it's just
Also because it's leading up into the season finale. And I think a lot of this is just coming from anxiety because there's one episode left and I still have no idea how this is going to play out.
yeah.
But
if you listen to
believe it
our
or not-
episodes, we get more anxious as these weeks are going on.
I
believe
think
it,
Andara said, "Don't center around your anxieties." So
that's
She
true.
did.
I
take a
know.
listen from that. Qui-Gon says something similar.
I should do
He
that
says the
because
exact same thing.
the truth is, even though it doesn't seem like it, I did actually really like this episode.
Yeah.
There was a
It does
lot of
not seem like
positives.
it. You're complaining about the structure of a mystery series.
Well, shut the
again.
fuck up. I'm trying to get to the positives. Quit bringing up my negatives. So there's a lot of positives,
It's just that
such
your negatives
as
are unfounded, in my opinion.
they're not unfounded.
The
Look,
mystery
I'm-
show's not over. You don't know all the answers. Just wait.
All right.
You are such a stickler for not making judgments about stuff before the show itself has time to answer the questions that it's presenting. And now you have spent the last 2 weeks complaining about exactly that.
Is the show presenting these questions
Yes.
purposefully?
What? Yes. All the characters
you-
that it's introducing, the Coven,
Okay.
the Jedi.
That's
the
what I'm
Sith.
asking. Are they
Yes.
asking these questions intentionally, or are they just creating questions?
That's a good question itself because like so for example, Luke to be the mediator is like the brash vow. Why did Torben take it? What did he do that so bad? Was his decision to go on the speeder what caused it? Or
100% yes.
that's why he took the brash vows because he went on a speeder though? Like I just feel like he
Yeah.
needed to murder. He didn't kill anybody or anything. He just his only decision. I mean, he didn't think of the consequences. But I feel like if he would have slaughtered all the Jedi, brash vow instantly, right? Like that's a clear brash vow move. But the fact that
there's a line beyond Barash Vow where you're
But, like,
exiled in disgrace or immediately commit suicide or something. Like he did not go on a murder spree.
but like to me, Saul would is more Barashval oriented than Torben at this point, right?
They all have guilt on their hands, yeah. But Soul
No,
and Soul wanted.
Kalnaka was out of his mind, quite
Yes,
literally.
literally.
I give him a pass
Yeah.
for that.
I think,
Kalnaka did not get a pass though, because he took whatever you want to call it, a more manual Barash vow and just also exiled himself, just not so ceremoniously.
he did exile
Not so
himself.
ceremonious.
Yeah, that's true. No, the show, I do really like the show as well. I think there's another point we're going to make, but I think the show is great. It is a mystery. I think that I think when we're not complaining, we're complaining about it, but
Most of us.
in the complaints that Max and I mostly have, I think is coming from a place where that we do like the show, and within this fandom and within this specific show fandom, I guess there's a lot of negativity not coming from any sort of I don't know. It's coming from like a place of hatred versus from a place of critical thinking, maybe. Is the way I would say it, maybe.
Everyone's the hero of their own story.
No, that's not even my story. It's Max's story.
I know.
My concerns are not with the answers that we don't yet have. I understand that
No
we're
one
going
thinks
to
their
get
own
more
criticisms
answers.
are unfounded, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but we're not coming from a place like this show fucking sucks and here's why. We're just like, hey, these are the questions that we have, and I think it's a valid reason. With that being said, we also like the show. So I think that this is just a medium in order to do that with, because I wouldn't want to sit here and just lie and be like everything makes sense, everything is hunky dory dandy, which I will do with Andor season 2, guaranteed, because it's going to be great. And so you also, I don't want to have people think we're completely one-sided in the fact that it's like we can't question some things that we have questions for. But I mean, the show I do like the show. I think this is one of the best episodes as well. I mean, the only one thing is that I wish we saw Kalnaka jump from the plane. She said, make the jump. And I said, what does that mean?
I know.
And-
yeah.
You did ask that.
And I was like, I want to see a Wookiee fly, basically.
You want to see a Wookiee
like,
do
how
a
high
force
is he?
jump 100 feet?
Because that was a great fake out. That was one of the first like jaw-dropping moments when they're like, he's like, my mind is clear.
My mind is fortified. Yeah.
And then it's just not him. And then you turn, you see Kalnaka, and then I just love the fact that Sol has a blue lightsaber, Kalnaka has a green, Torben has a yellow.
Yes, I did love
I mean,
that.
the choreography we mentioned, Luke, you guys were talking about that, but it was fucking great. The fact that Torben was just like twirling around like crazy.
Torben
love it.
looked awesome.
Same thing with Sol when he was just dodging Mother Coral's staff, just without a care. Like, so the choreography is great. Like, I'd love to see more of that.
Without a weapon. And when that was happening, Luke brought up too that there's a big thing about the Acolyte trying to kill a Jedi without a weapon, and where does that come from?
Seems like Mother Coral has a beef with it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Sol disarmed Kalnaka's lightsaber.
Yeah.
And they made a point to show it fall. So it's like, oh, is there some sort of thing there?
I
Sol,
don't think there's a thing there. They just had to disarm Kalnaka.
that they did. Sol also, we saw kind of him misstep in the fact, and how they're flawed in the fact that he mistook May for Osha, and then instantly realized it.
That's a reasonable mistake to make, though.
Hey, I would think so too. But
his bigger mistake was stabbing Mother Anastasia, which
hey, with that being
also,
said, found it right.
I would have done the exact. Max, you said that I would have done the exact same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone turns into a black smoke monster, I stab.
Yeah, that's the right reaction to that. But
And she was
that
also
is
like,
more reason for Sol to take the Barash vow than Torben.
Okay. Yeah.
Soul has an equal amount of guilt on his
Mhm.
conscience, but he
That's
feels
true.
a responsibility to Osha. That he wanted to go confess to the council, but they can't because
I think there
Indara
has to
convinced
be
him that he has
more
to stay who he is.
I think that may be where it comes in though. That the brash vow might happen in the fact that would like I feel like there might be an answer where Torben does want to tell the truth, and oh my god, I can't think of her name. You just
Indara.
said it. Indara. Thank you. I was like, what? Indara might force him not to, which is why he takes the vow, because he can't not say
Oh,
anything.
that's interesting. I mean, I don't think that's even worth discussing much. Who is most deserving of taking the Barash vow?
Oh,
Indara's
no,
not
I guess
guiltless also.
No,
I mean, everyone
it's-
processes their own trauma differently.
for sure. I don't think it's about who's the most guilty. I just think it's if someone's gonna take the brash vow, as of right now, I don't think Torben is able to be like him getting on a speeder to make the decision to go is it, because I full-heartedly believe that Saul would have done the same, would have eventually have gone to the fortress as well. I don't think he would have left the planet. I don't think he would have left the planet without Osha and May. Just again, we also in that episode see multiple times where Indara says, "Don't confuse that person's thoughts for your own," like, because he's consistently implanting things on other people. He's clearly looking for something. So I don't know if he would have left that planet. So I feel like it'd be cool though if Indara kind of forced Torben into silence, and so that's why he takes the brash vow, because he's
That would be really
interesting.
cool. And
Yeah.
that would make sense why there was a gap too.
But let's be
because-
clear, that is not a dangling thread. We have enough of the story to now, as audience members, either make up your own exact reasons on the process from landing on Coruscant to taking the Barash vow. We have enough context that we
you know what,
don't need a season 2 to address that.
I agree, and because at first I was going to say I disagree, Luke, but I agree in the fact that if you go a little deeper, the brash vow could have just been the fact that he is super un-Jedi-like, in the fact that all he's thinking about is going back to Coruscant, back to his home, where he knows he's a Jedi, he knows he's on a mission, he knows he has to make sacrifices, and yet all he wants to do is get back home to comfort.
Right. He made a decision for himself and not for the will of the Force
Yeah.
or the will of the Jedi trying to interpret the Force in
Yeah.
this matter. And that's what the Barash vow is. It's to get more in tune with the Force instead of with yourself or with the Order or with what other people that have agendas are trying to tell you is the will of the Force.
Yeah. I have a feeling we'll get maybe one more flashback, though, of them. Do I like the Endara theory better? Yes, I do. But Star
You can
Wars...
go with either theory.
Well,
That-
let's say Star Wars is
yeah.
built on you're setting your own expectations, is setting yourself up for failure as well. So I'll just live with what we are told right now, currently.
I will take that argument that you said you were
Mhm.
going to say you disagree with, because I do disagree with what you're saying, Luke, and that's kind of like my complaint is like you're correct in that we've seen enough now to know why he's taken the Barash vow, and that's why I don't think we are going to get any more questions, quote unquote, answered regarding that, and the answers that we currently have are not satisfying, which is my complaint. Is not that we're not going to get more answers.
All right,
it's
well,
that-
let's get specific. What's the question that is not getting an answer that you want? Why he took the Barash vow?
yes, what happened?
Because that's such a monumental thing. I just don't think it's. This is why. Like, again,
I think
Mhm.
dedicating an entire episode of an 8-episode series to answering that question the way they just did is satisfying enough. And I don't see how I can convince you otherwise if you don't agree.
No, they definitely dedicated the time
Yes.
to it.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just
I don't
not
know-
satisfied with what the answer was.
Max, I don't know if they did, though, because, I mean, going back again, I think there is a level of it feels like it's a bit shoehorned in and not earned, since we know nothing about Torben until this episode. So it's very quickly, here's who he is. He wants to get back to Coruscant. The ending, is that the brash vow? Yes, because that's it. I think that's the problem in the fact that, again, the show, again, could have been 10 episodes, and I think there'd be a lot more to flesh out just to understand who these characters are before, and so those results are more earned versus feeling like it's shoehorned
Okay.
in. Is that right, Max?
Also, Torben is the
Mhm.
7th most main character of this series, maybe
Yeah.
10th.
Yeah.
We don't need extra 2 episodes just to flesh out background characters.
It's not even fleshing out him himself, but if you just lay a little bit of groundwork ahead, and I think that's what good shows do. I mean, think about Breaking Bad, where you have Badger and Skinny P getting weird amounts of backstory throughout the whole show, and so when something bad happens to them, you care and you feel bad. Those are the emotional moments. Same thing with Jane in Breaking Bad. She is a one-season character who begins and then dies at the end of the show, and you really feel that death. Because again, she's in that show the 20th main character, right? She's way behind all the main characters and the side characters who have built up until that point. But it's just the fact that you get little nuggets of the personality throughout the show. Because if you were to introduce, for example, Jane in episode 12, just say, of Breaking Bad, or 10, and then she dies later that episode, it doesn't carry that same weight, not just for that character, but for the characters that surround them. As well. I do like your point, Luke, though, that everyone carries guilt differently, because that is great, right? I'm not totally sure how Endara is doing it, but it feels like she wasn't dealing with it at all. It feels like she made the decision, and then, which is good, because it distinguishes her, because Torben is taking the brash vow, you have Saul who's living with guilt all the time, and you have Kalnaka who has banished himself. And that's one of those things that I feel like you kind of have to abstractly think about. It's there in front of you, but to think about it. But like Max said, I don't know if it's 100% satisfying, because you really have to kind of think, be like, oh, like I didn't even think about how everyone's dealing with that specific guilt, presumably from Brendock, in very different ways. I guess maybe Endara's drinking. She's at a bar in episode 1.
Well, Endara has the least guilt of any of them. I mean,
Is it
What did
because
she- what did
she's
she do
She was
wrong?
very by the book. I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah.
you know,
she was trying her hardest and it didn't pan out her way, but I wouldn't feel that guilty if I was Endara. And
but she's
Kalnaka
she's
doesn't-
covering up though already.
She is covering it
That's
up, but
what I
it's
mean.
it's for Osha. She's making that decision to save or protect or
Is
give
she,
a
though?
life
I see.
beyond this
That's
for
true,
Osha.
but I think she's also doing it for herself and the integrity of the Jedi so far. I don't know.
Oh, well, to quote Indara, don't put someone else's. I can't quote Indara.
All I'm saying is she went body cam off this at the end of that episode.
Body cam.
That's what she did.
It was not the same as a Vernestra going body cam off, though, because that is what Vernestra is doing. That's what I was trying to say in a more
I think
clever
it's
way.
paralleling it, though.
It's paralleling
yes.
it, where Indara does it, and it's okay, though, because it's for a good reason, and it's not.
But you could justify anything for being a good reason.
Yeah, but and I do think it's a parallel, but I think Indara was far more reasonable and justified and not quite in the wrong like Vernestra seems to be.
And Indara didn't really tell Soul to lie or anything. She's not like actively participating in the cover up yet.
Yeah.
I feel like it was more like, hey, before you go in there, make sure you think this through.
And Indara is doing it to protect Osha, and Vernestra is doing it to protect the political appearance of the Jedi Order.
Yes.
Which is also different.
More
Yes,
actual
that is-
corruption.
That is
Yeah.
actual corruption, yeah. But man, is Indara planting the seeds for that standard.
But then, and so back to what we were talking about, I forget, I don't even know when, but Torben took the Barash vow, Kelnaka did the self-banishment, and he is not necessarily in the wrong either, but
No.
the way I'm understanding it is that he can't trust himself around other people because he
Yeah.
got mind controlled and he tried to kill his own fellow Jedi, and he doesn't want to be around people anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a very natural and understandable writing decision for him. And so then that's all four. We know why all four of them did what they did after Brendock. We know how that experience impacted them. We know what the experience was. I don't think we're going to see it for a third time in terms of any of the Jedi. I think we'll see Mother Coral again. I hope we see Mother Coral again. And I think May will tell us more about how she escaped and how she fell in with Chimere and stuff, and we'll see more of that. And, if we don't, we can make more conclusive statements after we see all 8 episodes. But you are just saying, Max, so much stuff about this show without having finished it. And you personally have been so mad about that in the past.
Well,
But
no,
it's
hold
coming-
on, because
yeah.
you're saying that like all the information that you have is enough to answer this question, and that you don't think that we are going to get more information about it.
I don't think we need it, yeah.
I don't think we're going to get more about it, and I think we do need it.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be a flashback. I think we can get like an exposition dump or something from May or whatever happened from her point of view, her perspective. I think that's fine. I think there's still lingering questions about all that stuff. I'm not sufficiently satisfied with it. I really like your explanation about how Torben can't trust himself, and that's why he takes the Barash vow. But he still makes an effort to graduate from Padawan to Knight to Master over a period of 6 years, and then takes the Barash vow. It's like, what happened over? Why the wait? That's why I really like the Indara theory. But
yeah, I mean, the Indara theory holds up, or even just the guilt builds upon itself for 6 years, not being able to talk about it. I feel so strongly that we do not need any more from those 4 Jedi in terms of their backstory. And I'm bummed that you feel differently. But I feel like we've discussed that at length now, where we are very clear on each other's perspectives.
Yes. We've talked a lot about we've talked about this episode, maybe the show overall, very introspectively and very abstractly. But how about the actual show, what we just watched itself, episode 7, right? Like, let's go through it a little bit. We get to see Saul's perspective on Brendock. I think there's so much cool shit.
I wanted to talk about, I didn't laugh at it the first time because the context, rewatching it made it way better. When they're at the campfire and they're talking, Torben's whining that he wants to go home. And later we find out that Indara tells Soul that, I want my Padawan to seek answers on his own instead of just telling him. And then when I go and rewatch it, Torben's asking these questions, and Soul is just fist deep in a rotisserie chicken. We're looking for a virgin.
The way he says it is
so hard. And then Indara just looks at him like, damn it, Soul. He's supposed to figure it out himself.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
he did not like having his meals interrupted. He's like, can I just have one meal without you fucking talking to me about this?
That's what it felt like. It's a fun group to watch, and the fact that they all are vastly different from each other, and the fact that like Kanaka is the cook of the group, like I just don't see that.
Well, he's got to have the most experience because he's older.
And he
It's
requires
true.
the most caloric intake, presumably.
Oh, that
true.
too.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be
Yeah.
like can I have seconds? When you don't cook it, it's like, no, he's gonna have seconds for sure if he cooks.
It's like when you go to a friend's house that you know isn't going to make enough for like a
Yes.
group meal or something.
Yes, exactly.
Come back, it's like, no, I'll make dinner.
So you have to stop at McDonald's like on the way there. Like, all right, here we go. This cheapskate over here. Yeah, I mean, I like being on Brendock. I think that was awesome. Seeing the whole, we said, oh, they got us when we see Sol sneaking into the fortress, making a noise on the catwalk.
I love when shows or movies do that and they go back and shows like.
Have you ever seen Harry Potter and Prisoner of Azkaban?
That's
'Cause
exactly
you would
what I was gonna
love that movie.
bring up. Do you know that I've seen that? Have we talked about it before?
No.
I'm not a big Harry Potter fan. I watched it for the first time a couple years ago.
You called me a fucking nerd last time I brought Harry Potter up.
I was just joking. I like Harry Potter, but Prisoner of Azkaban is one of the very few movies that has rocked my socks.
Yeah.
That's a rare accolade that I give to movies, and the Prisoner of Azkaban did it because they did exactly this, where you see the same thing,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, that's what that was. I didn't even think that was anything.
When Hermione sees herself in the forest,
yeah,
no, nothing, and she walks away because she knows it. She has the time turner the entire time. She calls it out to be destructive to Harry's perspective. Anyway,
And it was such a small thing, like just hearing him
It
walk
was.
around on the catwalk like
Yep.
that. That makes me think that we got to go back to get more information.
it's just fun. I just
Maybe,
like
I
that.
don't
It also, we saw May starting the fire on accident. She lights the notebook on fire. Turns out, pages burn pretty quickly, and so she throws it on the ground, and she tries to stamp it out. Which, from Ocean's perspective, she intentionally started it with, and very maliciously started it, and then obviously it destroys the control, so she can't open the door, and then everyone can shut the fuck up because there was wood paneling. Didn't think I would have to say that ever, but there was wood paneling and not just rock that burned. So the fire could spread.
That's the least of my
Fire
Same,
fire
but
catches
then-
fire.
stupid
I'm-
argument from the internet. That's an argument from people who don't want to like the show though. Stuff like that. Whatever.
Yes. But anyway, everyone can shut the fuck up about it because there is wood paneling. It's dark, but it's there. And so I did like seeing all those different perspectives. I like finding out what actually happened. The night scene, again, the choreography, it gives you such a sense of anxiety. Even when Saul, I want to know how long it took Saul and Torben to climb that wall, by the way, because Saul had to do like twice in like 2 days. Like, God,
I know when he
As soon as
started.
he got to the base, like, son of okay, get behind me, kid.
I've done this already.
When he started, I didn't think it looked that high, but then we got a second shot of him, and you couldn't see the top or the bottom. I was like, sheesh, this is quite the climb.
Yep.
I loved all the choreography. Torben with the yellow. Do we know Torben had a yellow lightsaber before this, or was that a surprise? I don't remember.
Do we-
I was surprised.
I think we saw.
I don't know if I
in-
should have been.
Do we see it in some promo material?
Oh, maybe,
maybe.
but not
God,
counting
not
that.
in
Guys,
the-
do
not
you
in the
remember when
show, though.
Yord was in this show?
I know.
Doesn't it feel like forever? Speaking of yellow lightsabers, just
I
my
love
God.
yellow lightsabers, and it makes me anxious for Rey Skywalker moving forward in whatever format she does. That everyone with a yellow lightsaber just gets wrecked.
Yeah.
That's happened twice now in the High Republic, in addition to Yord and Torben. It's just not a good omen. Maybe that's why they stopped using them.
Speaking of Ray, that'd be hilarious if that's the reason. That's canon. It's like, ugh.
Speaking of High
Bad luck.
Republic, we also got reference to the Great Disaster, which was exciting.
Yes, the Indara says that
Mm-hmm.
the Great Disaster, or she didn't say the Great Disaster.
She said there was a hyperspace,
hyperspace
incident
incident.
that
left
rendered this
this
planet
planet
lifeless.
Yeah, that's in the High Republic Phase 1. There's a whole bunch of books about it. It's really good. But
That's what the whole phase one's about, right?
yeah,
That one incident, yeah.
yeah, more or less. Mostly just book 1. But that was really exciting. Cool callback, and it makes sense. I love, it's not just saying oh, this planet's lifeless because of the hyperspace disaster. It's like this planet's lifeless, and that's the impetus of us being here because it's clearly not.
Yeah.
I
It was
like that they
because
did-
100
It
years.
wasn't just a throwaway line.
Yeah.
Like that was
Mhm.
important detail.
Something happened within 100 years. Because I just love I like the fact that it said this planet was cataloged to be lifeless 100 years ago. I was like, man. So it was like there was a mission to go out and catalog those planets, presumably around that disaster. And so what happened within that hyperspace disaster that happened that made that planet?
They were trying to go help people. They were going to all these planets that were affected and seeing if they could save anyone. And clearly at this planet, they could not. It was rendered lifeless. And
That
so
makes
they
sense.
cataloged it and moved on.
Yeah, but then what happened? Why is it starting to get back up?
I know, it's the
It's
Virgins.
the
Virgins.
Virgins,
I know.
yeah.
It's fun.
And that must be what drew the Coven here, right? Because the Coven didn't spawn here.
No, because they
ca-
got banished as
Oh,
well,
they got
right?
banished from somewhere
That's
and
right.
found this place. So I imagine the
point.
Virgins is older than the Coven, but the Coven might have caused the Virgins. I could see either. I don't know.
That's a good. That's a good question. Did they go to an inhabitable planet, a lifeless planet, and then make it inhabitable?
Make it habitable.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or do they just perchance be like, hey, there's no one here. Let's build
And they just stumbled
mansions.
upon
Yeah,
a
they're like,
virgins. They're like, we should build a
perfect.
well right here because I feel the force really well.
oh man, that doesn't get answered. I'm so pissed. Just kidding. Yeah. Shit. Oh, you didn't respond to my meme that I thought you would appreciate. The Ray Fisto. That was hilarious.
I like that, yeah.
Right, Ray Fisto. He's turning green. I thought that was hilarious.
What do we think? Predictions moving forward.
That's a tough question, Maxwell, because I feel like we have one episode left. We have to wrap up. It's setting up season 2. It has to set up season 2.
Mother Coral's gonna give birth to Darth Maul. That's my prediction.
Is it really? I was like, Luke, I don't know, man.
That would be pretty insane.
I was gonna say I feel like I mean I think it's gonna set up season 2. I said this last week as well. I just hope Star Wars sticks to their guns and actually makes season 2. Despite what the critics obviously, it's not even the critics. It's just the fan. It's just the review bomb. So that doesn't hold any weight. No one really takes it
I
seriously
don't think
anymore.
it's a sticks to their guns kind of thing. I think
I haven't taught Solo 2 and all that storyline. I mean, they just once things don't do as well as they want, they just kind of nix it.
it's a business. They gotta make where the money's going. If the show is financially successful, it'll get a season 2, and if it's not, it won't.
That's why they need to wrap things up after
But
season 1 in case it doesn't go on.
This is the problem, though, too, is that there's no such thing as financially successful anymore.
I
Especially
know.
with
yeah, what is
Disney
that for
shows.
streaming?
It's not viable.
I think this is
that's
streaming wise very successful. There's a bunch of
Yeah.
news stories about how this is like a crazy record for Disney Plus as far as viewership goes.
But it's also one of those things where like nobody can confirm that though because Disney doesn't
Right.
release
I
that
saw, I
stuff
saw
publicly.
posts like that too, but then I just think in the back of my head, like, what do you know?
Exactly. They could just say this
yeah.
is super successful, and you're like, because it's the same thing with Netflix, where like the top 10 of Netflix it's all made up. Like that doesn't mean anything. There's no numbers or records anywhere, which is insane, by the way. And then then they can just say whatever they want about this show is the most successful show of all time. They could literally probably just say that with no basis.
It's not coming from Disney though. It's coming from independent sources. I forget. I don't know how they run their
like the Nielsen's
their
rating
polls
almost.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Nielsen stuff where it's like they just take like 1,000 homes viewing habits and they just kind of like extrapolate that over a larger
In all
sample
those
size,
thousands of
but-
homes where people specifically just have Star Wars podcasts.
I know.
They randomly selected those.
Yeah.
If they target our 3 homes, they'll think 15 people are watching this show.
So yeah, that's why it's like I don't know how much you can like believe that,
Yeah.
but
But I mean, the show's doing well because Star Wars is a popular IP and people like Star Wars, right?
Mhm.
And again, you're going to hear more negative things anyway because people don't like things. Like,
Also, depending on how you want to view it, you could also say it's doing well in terms of it's getting viewed. Even the people that hate it are watching it every week.
Yeah.
correct. That's why it's
or watching YouTube videos
Or
about
claim
it.
to hate it.
I don't know if I sent this to you guys, but the Hard Times posted like a meme that I thought was really funny that says, "Man review bombs show because he misses his happy childhood." It's like, yeah, that's right. That is correct.
funny.
But Max, do you guys have any predictions? I don't even know if I really finished that thought, but we all kind of said the same thing, I think.
My predictions aren't really that different from last episode because we haven't seen anything in current day. May and Osha are going to come back together. I don't know. I think Soul is probably going to die. I don't know about Chimere. I don't know about if they're going to introduce a Sith Master above him. I can see it going either way, and they can make it work either way. I don't really even have a preference. They got to center it around May and Osha, though. And I don't think I'm not worried about that. I don't think they're going to get lost with Soul or Chimere or Chimere's Master. I think they will focus on May and Osha, and they should.
One thing I'm thinking right now is just I wonder if Chimere doesn't have a master and Mother Coral comes back, it feels like she could guide him into a deeper force, or even just like going back to Brendock. If he doesn't, because I don't think that if Osha does become bad, that Mother Coral would necessarily like teach her. Like I feel like almost at this point she sees potentially, right? She defected. She's trying to defect. She said she'd rather die than see her kids become a Jedi. So I don't know if Mother Coral would actually train her, because I would just feel like a weird circle to come around. So almost what I would think would be really fun is that if Osha turns bad, which I feel like is a given, Osha will turn bad. And I would love Mother Coral and Chimera to link up, and then that way you kind of have two bad guys, two adversaries for the Jedi for season 2 as well.
Oh, I'm not even thinking about season 2. I don't know. It completely depends how they wrap this up. If they want to leave, I mean, if you leave Chimera and Mother Coral as set up for season 2, well, I guess you could make a satisfying conclusion with just May and Osha. Yeah, I don't know. I could see it going anyway.
It's passing the baton a little bit.
Yeah, I just don't want to think about season 2 at all until this season's done.
It's probably a smart way to think. But at the same time, they have so much to wrap up. Max, what do you?
I agree.
Predictions?
Soul's gonna die. Osha's gonna turn bad. I think Chimera's gonna die because I think he's gonna pass the baton on to Osha. But
Osha's gonna kill Soul though, right? That's gonna be the ultimate Ben Solo, Han Solo
You
thing.
guys and a lot of other
That's
people
good.
I've talked to seem to think Osha's a lot more evil than I am. I know she put on the helmet and she held a red lightsaber, but
no, I think that can go either way.
I think
I'm not certain about that. I just think that's where it's heading.
I think like we talked about, I think they're gonna flip. May's gonna be good. Osha's gonna be bad.
Yeah, I think
I could see it going that way. I don't think it's as confirmed as you guys think.
The fact that if she finds out Saul chose her over May, it's like, well, that's not very Jedi-like. She would never want to be a part of that, something like that. Chimera's gonna be like, we would never have to make that decision, or whatever. I feel like Chimera's are very much of a don't pull a lever, just let history take its course.
I agree. That's not given though. I mean, I think they can really do anything at this point still with Osha and May's characters. So I am very excited.
Let's talk more about the black smoke of it.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
That was
with
new.
the witches.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. Did we see witches do something similar in the Clone Wars? I feel like we have seen Mother Talzin do something kind of like that.
Maybe, but we've never seen it live action. I don't know if it was
Not possess
anything
somebody,
like that.
but like
yeah,
turn into a puff of dust or whatever. I don't know.
it was also cool to see.
You definitely see it in Jedi Fallen Order, right? Isn't that night witches just appear?
Yeah,
they materialize out of thin air. So that's the other end of it.
That's interesting.
We never
because
see-
I always
maybe
kind
we
of
don't
thought
see
of
it
that.
go this way.
Interesting.
I'm sure we do, though.
I always kind of thought
can't
of that as
picture
more
it.
of just like a video game mechanic because you just need bad guys to spawn randomly
That's true.
rather than actual canon. But it is canon. That's interesting.
No, I'm gonna look stupid because I'm sure there will be a dozen gifs of night witches poofing away and reappearing in the next week. But
And
I'm
our
pretty
phones are not
sure
with us.
girl night sister Marin does it several times in Jedi Survivor also. I think that's not a completely new thing.
It was
But
cool to see.
Cool to see in live action.
I think when they do poof, it's green. But we know that this is different from the Night Sisters,
Yeah.
which they also confirmed in this episode
Mhm.
that they talked about the Night
The
Sisters and said,
Coven
no,
versus
this is
them.
different.
yeah.
And it did look different.
Talk about like the worst escape. You got to be like 20 feet away for somebody to start that process because instantly stabbed. She like for some reason thought that was a good idea to start doing some weird thing that no one's ever seen right in front of you, and like in a tense moment. Like where was she going?
Yeah, it's like when you get pulled over by a cop and you put both hands on your hip to pull out your wallet real quick. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. You got to go fast. Again, but they went body came off this time, so they can do whatever they wanted, I guess.
What was she doing though? Because she was also doing something funky with May. She
Yeah.
Mother Anastasia went smoke monster mode, and then May was like receiving smoke monster mode, or also
I thought she was-
entering smoke monster mode of her own volition.
Yeah,
I thought Anastasia was kind of controlling her.
I was like,
or
is she
something.
going into her?
Oh, that's true. Where did she go? May turned into the smoke as well, and then we just see her later on that bridge. We never saw her reappear.
I think
but
you
she
see her
did.
reappear when Mother Anastasia gets stabbed.
Oh, we did? Okay, and then
I
she just
thought
runs
so.
from there. Interesting.
Odd. Couldn't tell.
I also super thought that only the Anastasias were going to be smoke monster capable, and then Mother Coral went and did it again.
Bada bing.
Could they all do it? Is it just like a skill you have to learn? Is it
Interesting.
like midichlorians, but now confirmed to be rebranding into M count?
I don't know
where
how we
only
didn't talk
some
about
people
that
are
yet.
born that way.
Max, take a lap, my friend.
Nailed
You
it.
called it from episode 1. They are rebranding it to M Count, and Luke.
For no reason.
Yep.
I was very surprised about that.
Yes, you were.
We know
This is a
damn
good
well that
example.
Jedi in this time period call them midichlorians.
Yeah, that's a good example of Star Wars sticking to their guns. Don't
Unless they
rebrand it.
detour.
You already did it. Just go with it. We
Yeah.
all know it's midichlorians.
Unless they call it M Count, then they try to rebrand like Coke. They did new Coke for a little bit, midichlorians, and then went back to just regular Coke.
Interesting. I think Mother Anastasia might have just been like literally going to get Osha real quick. Because
Oh,
after she
shit.
died,
I
she
mean-
was like, I was going to let her go with you, dude.
Oh,
What the hell?
Max, that's exactly what she was doing
Because she
May
knew.
says she's trapped,
Yeah.
and then she's gonna disappear, get OSHA, and then she.
So she just kind of rolls her eyes like, "Ugh, all right, let me go get
Oh,
her
is
real
that what
quick.
she was
If you're
doing.
gonna do that, if you're
And
gonna
then-
turn into a smoke monster, just be like, "Hey, Soul, I know this is tense. 10 seconds."
Let me go grab OSHA. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I mean
Instead of just-
that's your child. You could do that.
Yeah.
Makes
Classic misunderstanding.
That makes me think
Ugh.
of the end of Dark Knight Rises when John Blake, was that his name? Walks across the bridge and he's like, I'm walking across the bridge, don't shoot. And then they blow it up anyway. So what good would it have done?
You talking
Even
about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character?
Yeah.
You mean his middle name Robin?
Well, what was his actual name?
I don't know, but do you
Was it
remember
John
that
Blake?
thing where it's like,
I do.
my middle name Robin, and it's like, yeah, but we're not gonna see it. Who gives a fuck? Like,
Yeah,
I know,
would
like,
love that.
it's
And I know
like-
you hate when they leave stories open ended like that.
No, it's like I know he's gonna take it on, but it's like I would have rather been if that was made in 2023. They'd be like, oh, now we're gonna do a mini series on HBO Max about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character as Robin, and that'd be cool to see, like the Penguin they're doing. They just killed the Arkham Asylum show, which is what I was most looking forward to, though. So that sucks.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it is.
I did not think that she was going to get OSHA, and I kind of have to rewatch it before I fully commit to that theory, but I like it a lot, and that makes sense.
Yeah, she cares about her kids, you know.
Mhm.
Well, I feel like Miller Court almost likes the idea of her kids more than she actually likes the kids.
She cares more about like the preservance of her coven.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, Mother Coral's all about the institution
yeah.
or the family.
The one line that didn't land for me, but I liked the sentiment of it, is when they're like, "But you're a leader and their mother. I choose mother." Like that scene. I was like, oh, okay. I don't.
Oh, that landed for me.
Really?
I liked that. Yeah, she's choosing OSHA over what the coven is telling her to do because that's
Yeah.
what OSHA wants. I like that line. I like that. I mean, the line is
She's
fine.
just being
I
good-
like
a
that
good parent,
story
though.
element. Yeah.
No.
She is a good parent. Gets stabbed for it.
No.
Stabbed for.
Just should have said something, you know.
I don't want to alarm you. I'm gonna turn into a smoke monster real quick. I'll be right back.
What the fuck does that mean?
There was also a sense of urgency that she didn't maybe have time to talk about it because May came out and said OSHA's trapped and there's a fire burning her. So you got to go right into action.
But if
mode.
you're in a hostage situation
I
and someone
know,
says
I
that,
know, I
I'm not being
know.
like 1 sec, and then like you can't just run.
there was urgency.
Yeah, there was urgency, I guess.
I'm
but-
trying to think if there's anything else specific like that I
I know.
want to talk
There was
about
a
from
lot-
this episode.
The Torben scene where we're getting to see that perspective of him getting mind controlled, kind of willingly.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
by Milana Seiya was really cool
Yeah.
because we saw how he perceived time, and all of a sudden he flashes back to it, and time has significantly passed, and Saul's meeting Osha and May, and so he clearly just lost chunks of time while they're communicating, in kind of in his mind, and so
Did
that-
he lose chunks of time though? That was about the same amount of time that passed, literally and in his head.
well, I think I guess not chunks. I mean, from his perspective, she goes in his head, right, and then instantly when she comes out, time has passed. So I mean, I'm sure it's linear, it's the same time, but
I
he's
see
just
what you
not
mean.
perceiving what's
Yeah.
going on in front of him. It seems like.
Mhm.
And then when he drops to his knees, he ends up being possessed. But it also gives this. I don't. It seems like Mother Anastasia is bad when we first see that, but really Torben is just giving in, and so she's not doing anything bad to him. He is just literally giving in,
Mhm.
and that could be another brash vow thing potentially. If I don't know if that will come back potentially with that as well, because he made some sort of deal. It felt like.
Mhm.
And I'm not totally sure what that deal was because it was like get back to Coruscant, and technically he did. He got back to Coruscant, and
Yeah.
Kelnaka gave him the scars. That was cool to see too.
I didn't see it.
His
we
scars
don't like
are-
actually see it, and I'm not saying I want to see like literally a frame where Kelnaka's fingernails dig into his
Oh
skin.
no, we did not see that.
But I was I thought we were going to see it more ceremoniously,
Yeah.
so to speak, than
He's just
what
against
we
the
got.
wall.
Yeah.
It's like oh,
I think I said that when we were watching it. I was like, "Oh, this is Kalnaka's gonna give him his scars," and I was like, "Oh, he does." I think already.
he's
Right, he
already
did it.
he's already got them.
Yeah.
I love the format of very similar to Prisoner of Azkaban, where we see it again from a different perspective. And when we saw it in episode 3, I remember thinking and saying that even though we're seeing this from the witch's perspective, they're still evil as hell. Like they are not coming off as good
They are not coming
at
out as
all,
good. Yeah.
even portrayed in the best light possible. And then
But they're not been portrayed in the best light possible yet. That's where Coral's gonna come in, or May, who's gonna be combined
Well,
with
hopefully, man. I don't think
Coral.
Coral's going to give shed good light on anything in this
Maybe.
situation.
I don't see how well the light can shine though when they're chanting
But yeah.
around that well and cackling like witches. Like from just everything I know about Halloween, that's bad.
I was
And
going to
then-
say, I don't think they're cackling. I think it's just.
They cackle like witches. They do. Go rewatch episode 3.
They
It is
definitely do.
I will. I do
jarring.
not remember that.
But seeing it from Soul's perspective, he like only sees the worst parts of an already bad
Yeah, he
situation.
does.
It's like, okay, that's fair. You're catching him at a bad time.
Yeah, he does not see the best moments in that in that scene for sure.
Yeah. I think we'll definitely get more information from May's perspective. It'll have information on Coral.
Yeah.
And I think it'll tie a neater bow on what happened.
I know I say this every week too, but like worst case scenario for the show, even if it ends badly, it's been a really fun ride to get to this point, and I've enjoyed theorizing with you guys and throughout the week. Every single time, I think that's the funnest part of Star Wars to me as well. Even if I don't go rewatch it, I haven't rewatched. I only watched scenes in Kenobi over and over again. Same thing with Book of Boba Fett. I watch scenes. I don't watch the full show. Honestly, same thing with Mandalorian. Andor, I rewatch quite a bit, and the movies. But it's like worst case scenario, I just won't rewatch this all the time. But there's no way I'm not gonna rewatch the Kalnaka fight scene on
Mhm.
repeat.
I mean, every single fight scene has been fantastic.
Yeah.
But the entirety of episode 5 will be on repeat.
And I'm interested in seeing, since this is a flashback episode, and we know that episode 3 got such flack for the witches and everything. I wonder if this is going to get equal amount of flack from the community or whatever. Like
I
the
hope
people who
not.
hate-
I
The
didn't
bad
quite
part of the
understand all the
community.
flack for episode 3.
I
Episode
agree,
3
we
was
liked
very on track with 1 and 2
Well,
in
you
my
and I liked it,
opinion.
yeah.
I thought that was
I thought so too.
They were mad that the girls were created out of the Force and that it ruins Anakin. And
It
that's
doesn't make any
stupid.
sense.
Yeah, that
Which I
doesn't- it
wonder,
doesn't-
that's my prediction for what the internet or the subsection of the internet that hates Star Wars is going to complain about, that they talk
Yep.
about a virgins. I bet they want Anakin to be the only virgins. Even though I want to get ahead of this, that Qui-Gon says that he's found a virgins in the Force, and the council is like, oh, okay.
Another one.
Yeah. as
Good
if-
job,
Not
Qui-Gon.
as if it's the first one.
It's because if you want to hate the show, you have to have a reason to hate it. And like I said, going into this show, this is very disjointed from all of the rest of Star
Yeah.
Wars. So even if you like absolutely hate the show, you can still live the rest of your Star Wars life totally fine.
Yeah.
So I feel like they have to find a way to be like, oh, this ruins everything else for whatever
And
dumb reasons.
it's
And that
this-
was the only thing that they had to grasp onto.
But-
That and Kiadi Mundi.
That's the same thing with the prequels, though. That was how the prequels were looked at forever. Is that they
And the
ruined
sequels.
everything that exactly. Yeah, there's ruins everything that came before.
History repeats itself.
Exactly. And so, I mean, again, worst case scenario, this isn't going to be nearly as impactful as the prequel trilogy was, because those are 3 movies out of, when you had 3 movies, and the other trilogy is pretty set in stone. And so this is just a show amongst all of this content now.
I mean, there's no way this will be as impactful as the prequel trilogy.
No, absolutely not. But I mean, the worst case scenario, it's like you're not going to think about that, I guess, as well. Like, it's like, oh, Ocean May? I don't think Ocean May are going to have staying power for the next 30 years necessarily.
No, of course.
Exactly.
Of
So it's
course
like,
not.
that's
It's-
exactly. So all these people are bitching about nothing.
Right. It's a 7-episode show, or it's an 8-episode show released over 7 weeks, as
Yeah.
opposed to a 3-episode trilogy released over 8 years or 6 years.
Exactly. Check your privilege. Enjoy Star Wars. Anyway, did anybody have anything else to say about this episode?
Nope.
No, I'm
Strongly
very,
pro. Looking
I'm
forward to the finale.
very excited to see the last episode. Do we know how long the last episode is going to be? I wonder if it's going to be much longer than the rest. I
This
hope it
was
is.
longer. I hope it was. Oh man,
This
that'd
one
be
was
great.
barely longer. It was only 40 minutes.
True.
I think
That's
the other
true.
ones
Is
were
it-
like 35.
the one was
Progress is
36.
progress.
The one was 28 without credits.
Without credits, but I don't know. I can't
Yeah.
do that math. So
I know
just
that it's
say
bullshit
what
to
it's given
count
me.
the credits as runtime, but we gotta just agree that we're gonna count the credits. So that we
No,
don't
we
have to
can't. It's
keep-
not content.
I know.
Unless the Kiani Mooney episode, that was content because we figured it out.
They played a song in these credits.
Yeah,
so
I
that
did
is
not like
content.
that. That was weird to me.
I didn't dislike it.
liking-
It is different.
It's that's like that to me is like at the end of an episode of Star Wars, at the end of a movie, you get to enjoy the themes, and that's like again, that's the thing that we've talked about is like this show doesn't really have that music pop as everything else does. And I'm
the
like,
credits have been silent every other episode.
I don't like it. No, it had really.
Mm-hmm.
See what I mean? What is that?
Mm.
It needs to be.
Do you prefer the silence or the song from this episode?
silence? I think
I think I probably prefer the song.
the song was good. I liked it, but it was
We
not.
called it cringe last week.
It was cringe. If you listen to it on Spotify, it is not does not play well. But
you
like,
need to see words float in blue across a space backdrop.
yes, context.
I was
but
about
no,
to say, yeah, that sounds way better.
I did not prefer the song. It just felt weird. It felt like the equivalent
But it's-
of a James Bond being
I was just
American.
about to say James Bond.
Are you really?
I don't like any of the James. No, there's like 2 or 3 that I do like, but for the most part, I don't
Skyfall's
like the
good.
James Bond songs.
Oh,
and
sorry. No, I was
they're
going to
like
say
classic.
if James Bond was American, not British. It just felt like breaking massive tradition. But yeah, I agree. The James Bond songs, "Live and Let Die," "Goldfinger,"
Skyfall.
Skyfall. Yes. Oh my God, Adele's is great. And the Jack White and Alicia Keys. I got to wrap it up. Anybody have any force for thought?
I do. I was reading The Living Force recently, and Mace Windu, totally a diversity hire on the council, right? Not because he's black, but because he is 40, 50 years old. That is,
Oh yeah.
what is the process of
Super
getting
young.
elected to the council? Yeah. I mean, he is
Everyone else, yeah.
cognitively a child. Like we joked about how Konaka is the default cook because he's got so much more experience. Mace Windu should be a default lowest ranking member of the council until he is at least half as old as the 5th oldest person on the council.
You know, we're saying that, and then yet we're complaining about all the content we're getting from them. So maybe we're gonna find out through comic books, through the other book.
why they let such young people onto the council.
Yep, he did
Because-
something so cool.
Also, that's a line that Obi-Wan's like, oh, no one's ever been on the council at your age before. Well, age is pretty relative, because how old was Yoda? 500, and Mace Windu was 50. That is already a drastic difference, and the
Yeah.
difference between 50 and 25 isn't that much more different.
It's a good call, Luke. I think that's true on that.
I'm trying to think if everyone else on the council is long-lived. Is there anyone on the council that we know of has a normal lifespan?
Depa Billaba, is she
Yep,
human?
that's true. Yeah, she is.
Oh, you're looking over because the posters
yeah,
over here.
I'm looking
Because I was
at
like,
the
what are you
poster.
looking at? Should I be concerned?
Yoda, Yaddle, Aporensis, Yarl Poof, and now Kiadi Mundi are confirmed long-lived. We don't know about Adigalia, Stacey Tin, Plo Koon, or Evan Peel.
I'm so excited for our review of Living Force because I have a lot of thoughts about how Stacey Tin and Plo Koon are both on the council. Like, it really just sat in my mind, and yet Kit Fisto is not.
I'm so excited you guys are actually reading it. My expectations were low for us ever actually
We
doing
met
the
John
book club.
Jackson Miller, and 2 out of 3 of us got a signed poster. Of course we're going to read it.
I read it. I liked it.
Yeah.
I did not think you guys would. I'm glad. Stay tuned for our Force for Thought, or for our The Living Force review.
And the Force for Thought comic coming in 2025. Max, do you want to take us out?
Yes, let us know what you think of Star Wars Episode 7, and let us know if you're excited to hear about The Living Force. You can reach out to us on social media at Force for Thought, and you can email us at forceforthought@gmail.com.
I like Star Wars Episode 7. See you, Sammy.
I never talked about Eth Koth. He's also on the
Acolyte. Star Wars The Acolyte.
These Zabrak. Are they old?
Do we know canonically?